Alright, so I'm going to show you guys how to do the second worksheet. The things that you're going to need is you're going to need your first worksheet, of course, provided, of course, that I've graded it and returned it back to you. This is just, again, another demo sample that I did the other day, so I don't have them all finished. You should have all 4 of the designs finished, and you should have the one that you're doing starred. So some of you guys needed to kind of decide between 2 different ideas. On your worksheets, I would have circled the one that I thought you should do if we didn't discuss it in person. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you guys how to go from this worksheet to the final worksheet. Now the final worksheet should be now the new last page in your packet, this one right here. So I'm going to go ahead and just rip this off, so then you still have intact the rest of your packet, so you have that available to you for when we need to study for the test. So I'm going to put that off to the side. In addition to that, you guys are going to need a reliable ruler. So you're going to need a ruler that you can see the measurements on it really, really well. So you don't want to grab one of the older ones where the marks have faded off, so that could mess you up, okay? You need a pencil. In this situation, I do actually recommend a mechanical pencil. It's not often that I do, but with this, I do. And then a trusty eraser, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to go from your first design to a final design. So if you guys look right here, I'm going to use this one. I'm going to go with the smaller one just to speed this process up a little bit. On this worksheet, I'm going to go ahead and put my name on this. On this worksheet, I have provided for you guys 4 different shapes here. Now, to get all your credits, all you need is 1, okay? So remember that you guys have the option of either doing a small design or a larger design. So if you're like me and going to do a smaller design, I'm going to be putting my design in here. These down here are just extras. In the event that maybe you messed up on this and you just need an extra space, that's what these are for. But really all that you need to get all your credit is one of these filled in. Alright, so up here are sort of the rules or the requirements. Remember, you want to use as much space as possible. Smaller pieces are much more difficult to create, so remember, this actually represents the size of your metal, okay? You do not want to have a design that's like half the size of this piece of metal. It's going to make your life very difficult for the next 3 weeks if you do. But also, too, it's a big waste of material. So I'm not going to give you a large piece of metal like this and only have a project about half the size. So make sure that your design reaches to the very outside edges of this space, okay? Because again, remember, it's the same size of the metal. You must have at least 3 internal shapes. Odd numbers work best. So again, remember, if you're going to do more than 3, what's the next number you go to? 5, okay? Now, I don't recommend actually doing 5 interior or inside shapes on the smaller piece of metal, but I do think that you could easily get 5 shapes cut out on the larger one, okay? The next one says, and this is where we get into the measurements, internal shapes must be at least 1/4 inch wide. That has to do with these. We do not want these inside shapes that we're going to cut out to be too skinny. If they're too skinny, it's going to actually make it really hard to saw it out. But even so, it's going to make it more difficult to file it and to sand those edges. So you need to make sure that in this space you have at least 1/4 inch open so that you can get those tools inside. And I will help you sort of determine if you're at risk for that. Next one says on here, interior and exterior design must be unified. That's something that we've already discussed in the beginning process of this. Remember, you cannot have any sharp points. This is metal, so if we do have sharp points in our design, that could be dangerous. So we want to make sure everybody survives this project, okay? And then the next one talks about the metal bridges cannot be any smaller than 1/8 inch. When I'm talking about bridges, I'm talking about this metal that's going to be left over. So if you look at this preliminary design that I have here, I'm going to go ahead and kind of shade in the areas that are all going to get cut away. So that's going to get cut away, this is going to get cut away, and this is going to get cut away. In addition to that, I'm also going to have to cut out this stuff around here to get that outside shape that I want. So all of this would get cut away. Shade that in so you can see it better. So what's left is this stuff. This is going to be my metal, or my positive space. I do not want any part of this metal, and this is what we refer to as metal bridges. We do not want any of our metal bridges to be really thin, because if they are, we are at risk of, when we're filing and sanding and doing stuff like that, just the metal bending on us, okay? And if it bends on us, it could snap and break. Again, remember that once things like that happen, we cannot fix it. So we do not want any of the leftover metal, which we refer to as metal bridges, to be too thin. Our measurement is going to be 1/8 of an inch. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you guys here real quick. I'm going to do this here, and I'm going to zoom in. I'm going to show you guys these important measurements that you want to find here on your ruler, okay? So this is, let me move stuff around here. So here's your ruler, okay? This measurement from 0 to 1, this is 1 inches, okay? So that's what 1 inch looks like. So this entire thing right here is 1 inches. And I'm going to kind of make a mark here. That's 1 inch wide, okay? Now, if I divide that in half, what's that measurement? Of course, I can't see my mark now. If I divide 1 inch in half, what is that? What is it? 1/2 inch, right. Let me drop this down so it's a little easier to see. Couldn't see my marks. Okay. So, take my ruler, this mark right here in the middle, that represents my 1/2 inch mark, okay? Now, if I divide a 1/2 inch in half again, so if I divide this 1/2 inch in half, what's this measurement? 1/4. Now, let's do this again. If I divide that 1/4 of an inch in half again, what's my measurement? 2, 4, okay, yep, it's going to be 1/8, and I'm going to have to move this over here. So that's 1/8 of an inch, okay? We cannot have any metal that's any thinner than 1/8 of an inch, okay? And I'm going to up here just show you exactly how wide that looks. That's how what 1/8 of an inch looks like. That's 1/8 of an inch wide. I do not want any of my metal to be more than 1/8 of an inch wide, okay? And I'll be honest with you guys, me being a metalsmith, I like to be on the safer than sorry side, so I'm going to make them even a little bit bigger than that. I'm only going to do 1/8 of an inch if I'm really pushing, hurting for some space, okay? So what I'm going to do to make my life easy, I really like this design, okay? So what I'm going to do, and it does need to be fixed up. It's not perfect, and I will fix it up when I get to my next worksheet. I'm going to go ahead and just draw over top of these lines. I'm going to make them darker. Does anybody know what I'm setting myself up to do? Why would I be making these darker? Anybody have an idea? If I'm making them darker, they're a bit easier to see, right? Do I want to try to make that again? What I can do, I'm going to try and, I'm not going to be able to see it. Well, I'll tell you this. I can't, yeah, I'm not going to see it on this. Let's see here. I can see it through my phone. Oh, here we go. Yeah. Not that easy. You guys can do this on a window. I do have some, also too, some light boxes. So it looks like I'm going to have to try to do this way. So what I would do, if your design is pretty good, the way it is, I would try to retrace it, just trace it back onto this other worksheet. I'm going to have to redraw mine just because at this particular time I'm not going to have access to enough light. And I'm already just kind of going through here and trying to kind of edit some of the stuff that I know that's going to need to be fixed. And also too, I want to take advantage of some of this extra space that I have here. Because again, if I've got the space, I want to use it. It's going to make my life a lot easier when it comes to working with the metal. Okay. So now I'm going to work on these. Now remember, I don't want any of these metal bridges to get too thin. So I'm going to be aware of that, but I'm not going to know if I'm in the safe zone until I sort of stop this design and take a ruler to it. So everybody's going to need to grab a ruler for this part and check all your measurements to make sure that you are not making anything too thin. The other thing is too, if you guys look at this area right here, I don't want to make that too skinny again that I can't get a tool inside of there. So I want to try to open this up. So if you've got like corners and stuff like that, open that up like this, and that will give you more room and access to that area with the tools that we're going to be using. So you just don't want it to be too tight. So I'm going to open that up. Got another shape right here. This is one area right here I'm a little worried about. Then it may not be, I may not have enough metal left there. So what I have to do is go through and I'll just check that. And some of these shapes are changing, and that's okay. This was my S. Alright, so I've got it redrawn. I need to fix up some stuff. Now here's the thing, guys. You need to be, and I hate to use this word, but you do need to be perfect with this. Meaning that you want to make sure that your pencil lines look really nice and clean, because you are going to be using these lines. We're literally going to cut this out of the paper for our design and glue it onto, and you can see how I've done that with some of these. You're going to cut that out and you're going to glue it onto the metal. So what you have here is what you're going to get. And if your lines, pencil lines are sloppy, it's going to make it really hard for you to know exactly what to do. I've had a lot of kids mess up their designs just in the very beginning stage because their lines were kind of messy and they didn't cut it out correctly. So. Alright, so I've got that kind of fixed up. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through. I've got to take my ruler, and you can see right here I'm really close. If I'm close, it's too close for me, so I'm going to fix that so that it's much wider than 1/8 of an inch. So I'm going to cut. I have enough room. I can kind of make that a little bit smaller, and I can make this wider. And I'm going to clean this up right here, so I know exactly where my edge is going to be. Okay, I'm going to look again at any, see that's right at 1/8 of an inch. It's too close for me, so I'm going to shorten that, this shape right here, so I can make that wider. So I'm just going to go through and I'm literally going to check all of these areas that look like problem areas. And if it means I have to make an interior shape a little bit shorter, or if I have to take out the outside edge a little bit more, that's what I'm going to do to kind of put me in that safe zone. Okay? So that's what you're going to do. That's going to take some time to play around with. Again, you're going to need to use your ruler So make sure you grab a ruler that has good marks on it. You can see it. And that's what you're going to do. When you think you've got a design that is metal ready, meaning that all of these measurements are good and safe, nothing's too thin, then we'll be ready to move on to the metal. Okay? So that's what I want you guys to start working on now.